Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where I get to talk and chat and hang out with founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And today, we're stepping into a very important part of this world, the world of pitching, fundraising, and founder empowerment with Kat Weaver, CEO of Power to Pitch. It's a powerhouse platform helping entrepreneurs, especially those in food and beverage, secure capital with clarity and confidence. Before we get rolling, a big thank you to our sponsor, Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we partner with mission-driven food and beverage brands to cultivate genuine community, boost engagement, help with velocity, and grow through strategic marketing. So if you're ready to turn to social into a real engine for connection and brand momentum, head over to firebellymarketing.com to learn more. So, on to the best part of the show, Kat Weaver. She is a powerhouse entrepreneur and one of the brightest minds in pitching and fundraising. I love so many of her ideas. Kat launched and scaled her first company straight out of her college dorm room, which we will talk about. Today, she is running Power to Pitch, a platform designed to help founders craft compelling pitches, understanding exactly what investors are looking for, and raise capital with confidence. She has guided founders to securing over 50 million in grants, venture funding, and other capital, and that number continues to grow. In addition to being a trusted CPG service provider for food and beverage brands, she is an active angel investor, giving her a unique perspective on both sides of the fundraising table. So I'm so excited to have you here, Kat. Welcome to the show.
What an intro. Thank you so much for having me. It is quite the honor.
Well, absolutely. I've been following you for a minute, and I love the way you interact, and you're full of vulnerability and helping people and raising people up. So thank you for that, and thank you. I'm just going to get this out of the way. Thank you for making the world a better place.
I didn't even pay you to say that. That's so kind. I love that. That it comes across that way because I do have so much excitement and appreciation for startups because I know how hard it is. I had a CPG brand and I grew a business that I hated essentially at the end because I made so many mistakes and I went in it such the wrong way that I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want other founders to feel this way because I know what that looks like. So it truly all comes from shared appreciation and like support in what they do. So I appreciate you saying that.
Well, and not only did you start in your college dorm room, but along the way, the business burned down.
Very early, actually, literally within months of starting. So I was like, oh my God, is this a sign from God or what? That like this shouldn't even be around anymore. I mean, like literally wiped everything out. And I get to joke about it now, but at the time, it's like literally going to zero, no family and friends money. My mom, it was actually her store and all my products were in there. So she actually lost her business of 26 years. I didn't even have the biggest detriment at that time. And it was just kind of a dual loss in that sense. But I had encouragement from people around me who were like, you still have interest. I still want these products. And I'm so grateful for that because I wouldn't probably have pursued it on my own if I didn't have that outside help and support.
And I think that is something that makes you one of the things that makes you so unique in what you do, in that you've done it not once, but twice. You've started a company and you've grown it and then exited. And so I think for a lot of the people, it's kind of like a coach, right? If a coach has never really worked out, it's like, yeah, you could do a great job coaching and maybe, a lot of people believe in you. But me personally, I like to see a coach that's fit. You
Yeah,
know,
it's also, I think so many founders, there's so much noise. There's more distraction than focus as a founder. And if you're taking advice or you're trying to raise money or get into a retailer and someone has never achieved that, it's like, how do you actually know what that's like? I feel like the experience is surface level and you don't hit on the right directional things because there's no perfect checklist to achievement. There's kind of it's almost like going through different mazes with different paths to really get there. And it's really, really important, I think, for founders to find someone who has achieved what you want in order to almost mimic that outcome so you also don't make those same mistakes.
And what a perspective of abundance too, right? Because there is truly enough for all of us. We don't have to, the person who's sharing their journey doesn't have to worry about, oh, this person's going to steal my secrets, right? Because you're in a way you're extending your legacy.
And I can't even take credit for this example, but it stuck with me. I was at this a friend of mine. They're two separate friends. One had they had one of the first like Facebook marketing agencies, and her friend they also had one technically in competition with each other, but the one was at real eight figures and the other was a bit smaller. And at the time, that eight-figure founder let them into her agency, taught her everything, showed her their office, their plans, and helped them get an exit while she was also having an exit. And what she said was, there's enough business in this world for all of us. And yes, we're in competition, and I want to be the best and be known for helping founders become fundable, but I'm not the only one out there. Like, I'm sure, there's other people that you resonate with or have different strengths and things, but I am so damn good at what I do, and I want people to feel that. But there truly is enough out there in our own ways, and I never forgot that example because they were supporting each other instead of competing with each other in that sense.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting because there's this sort of like journey, right, that founders go through. They're so excited and they've got this idea, and then maybe they develop the brand or they develop the product, however they go about it, and then they're going to farmers markets or wherever their first steps are, and then suddenly they're like, okay, I need money to grow. And there's so many options out there. They can go to friends, they can go to family, they can go to community, they can do, they can go to the bank. And this is where CAT comes in, right? Because this is where there are so many mistakes that can be made, and some of these mistakes can be basically, um, I'm exaggerating for effect, but they can be life-threatening for the life of the business, right? It's like you get into the
But that's
wrong.
not an exaggeration. Like, especially the wrong investors. I've seen it make or break a business, even accepting a small check. They could be your worst nightmare on your cap table because that's a marriage. So I truly don't think that that's an exaggeration.
Well, so I want to make today all about the investor psychology, right? It's like this is such a critical thing that founders have to go through. So let's start with this one. What are the biggest psychological mistakes that founders make when they're trying to raise capital?
Well, and I know we're talking about the investor psychology of things, but I think this aligns perfectly in that even though my superpower is helping founders pitch and raise capital, venture capital should be plan F, not plan A. Plan A is pre-sales, your own customer financing. Second is corporate grants. They're free. I won 24 to fund my first company. It is literally money you don't have to pay back. The third is debt. It's cheaper than equity. Then you have potential crowdfunding, which each of these have their own pros and cons. But then there's, friends and family, and then there's angel investors, and then only then you should have VCs. Like truly, there's so much in between because only 2% of companies raise venture, and 75% of the companies that do raise fail. That's a public statistic. And so I just want to preface like, yes, we're talking about the investor psychology of things, but it has to be taken with such caution because there's so many stipulations around it. The majority of founders don't go in with the right mindset because taking on investment is like a marriage. That investor is on your cap table and has a chunk of the company until you exit for life. And divorce is messy and expensive. And it's almost like giving up, you only have so many pieces of the pizza to give away. And if someone starts taking it away and they go hide it, it's really hard to get back. Could be more expensive. It might not be in the way. You might not have the same value as when you originally had it. And so it's really something that a founder has to think through so carefully because not all money is good money. Money is actually abundant, but it's a matter of finding the right money. So it is strategic. And I'm a pure believer in that every single person on that cap table should be for strategic reasons. Not just because it sounded good, not just because they have a flashy name in a firm, not just because it was the first check to come your way. So the psychology is like, you want to put yourself in a position where you want to be picky. And now not all of us have that power of maybe we come to a point of like, I have this PO or I'm in desperation mode, but not thinking through who a strategic investor could be and what it looks like and the stipulations of actually raising will and could break a company. So I know it's a long-winded answer, but there's a lot to really think through. It's not as simple of like, yeah, I just want to raise $1 million because it sounds like a good whole round number, and I've got a list of VCs who might fund me.
I mean, I think it's interesting. We've just recently been talking to someone, and all they can talk about is we've got this VC interested and that VC interested, and I'm like, man, you've only done one round and you're going straight to VC? It's like you are gonna dilute everything immediately. And how did you select the VCs? Oh, we went through the top 10. I'm like, that's it? That's it. And so let's flip it, right? Since it's investor psychology, what are in your esteemed opinion, what are investors looking for? Any investor.
So I will speak to a lot of the investors I know, especially in the really early stages. Now, when you get towards like Series A and above, that's a different operator, CEO, and personnel. I'm talking in the super early stages. A lot of founders don't realize the investor is not betting on the drink that tastes really good or your customers think your little protein bites are delicious. It has everything to do with the founder, your ability to execute, your level of responsiveness, your willingness to make sacrifices and be gritty and be coachable. And so I interviewed hundreds of investors, and this is actually what we vet for when I decide whether or not I can or want to support a certain founder who applies to work with us is they must have four qualities. And they are coachability, transparency, passion, and grit. And if a founder does not have all four of those, then we are not a fit. We will hate each other. It is not meant to be. Like, doesn't matter how much you want to pay me, go find someone else if you're not willing to let us poke holes in your theory and make changes. And a lot of founders get this wrong of like, no, I have the best product, I have the best product. But at the end of the day, you might pivot. You're probably gonna have to make changes. Your pretty packaging right now is gonna change 6 months from now. So it is everything really to do. They're indexing so heavily on the founder. And when you see these, celebrity people on Forbes who raise these big rounds with no product, it's because they're betting on that individual. Like that as an extreme example, but it is everything to do with you and that your energy is also contagious to an investor. A lot of founders don't realize that too, is like when your energy is low or they can feel that you maybe don't have passion or you don't understand what you're doing. It's again goes back to like they're really indexing you more than anything.
Which brings me to the pitch, right? It's like, hey, well, actually, let's take a step back before we get to the pitch. How do you suggest that your clients and partners go about even going down that? I was recently looking at your checklist of like least expensive to most expensive ways of fundraising. And do you go through that with your clients and say, hey, these are the options we have? How does that all work?
Well, I would say we encourage founders to think through what their big milestones are. So it's not about the types of capital. It's, thinking through if a founder, like I see a lot of founders get overwhelmed by this. So we say, what are the 1 to 3 big milestones you want to hit in 12 months? And then 18 months, 3 years, 5 years, and then you work backwards. So you're really going to focus on the types of capital based on really those next 12 months, because so much the 3 years a guess, tomorrow is technically a guess, but we say really focus on that 12 to 18 month span. What are those really big goals and KPIs? Something you can actually quantify. Sales, velocity, number of doors you're in, whatever's, consumer metrics, if you're D2C, like what are those things that you want to hit? What is your current sales output? And then think through, I don't have this actual cash flow with team capacity. So then that number in between is what you actually want to raise to cover that and hit that level of growth that you can't achieve with just sales because you're trying to beat out your competition or you're trying to get more placements because it's going to unlock the next level of growth. It's not about like, oh, someone told me to raise $1 million because it sounds good. You'd be shocked how much times I hear that. It's wild to me. And so you got to think through the milestones, and then it's all right, let's say I actually only need 100K to be able to get in these doors and make an impact. Don't touch an investor with a 10-foot pole. Like that's not enough money to be worth even the legal hassle. So it's debt, it's customer pre-sales, it's negotiating with your PO financing or invoices sooner, corporate grants, do all those things in tandem. And then it's, all right, if you need 250K or more, then it's thinking about corporate grants, financing, and maybe angel investors or family and friends, if that's even an option. But it's about thinking about those options in tandem paired with amount, timing, and goals. It's not, I wish it was like a simple calculation. I actually created a GPT for this. I shared it on LinkedIn and it went super viral because it was like, just put in some metrics. It's going to help unpack that for you. So if anyone listening wants to, so DM me on Instagram at I am Kat, K-A-T Weaver, the word Firebelly, one word. I'll send you my investor vetting checklist and how much to raise. I'll send you both of those because I have them as free resources. I don't want founders to make the wrong decisions because again, it'll cost the company. But it's about being realistic of like, yeah, you want to have $1 billion exit, but like, what are we really going to achieve in the next 12 to 18 months too?
That's amazing. And I mean, and I know that you're very generous and you give these kinds of like important resources away for free, which take lots of time and experience to put together. So thank you for that offer. And so when you're coaching a founder to meet with investors, no matter what kind they are, you talked about coachability, transparency, passion, and grit. Um, Assuming a founder has all of those things, what makes a founder instantly investable in the mind of an investor?
No, I can't speak for every investor. I'm not going to say I know and have all their same mindset because there are quite a bit different, but I like to speak again if I am thinking through the early stage of a founder is the relatability is actually under indexed by own founders. Like, can I see myself as an investor like working with you, talking to you once a month, every other week, depending if I have an advisory role? Can I see myself advising or sitting on the board? Do you feel like someone who's trustworthy? And so again, I say that again at the early stages because later stage, there's a bit more stipulation and relationship and the CEO is then replaceable at that point, not more founder driven. So I speak from that experience because I even only personally invest if I'm like, can relate or resonate in some way or know that I can support. Because otherwise, it's not even worth my time being on that cap table. I want to come in if I can add value and leverage or connections. I also will say this is a personal thing. I love former athletes. I played tennis in college. We have to go through a certain level of rigor and sacrifice. So in my mind, that feels like, hey, a former athlete is also a great entrepreneur because they understand what that takes. No, it's not my only threshold for things, but I will also say too, is I have chosen to not invest in a founder because I saw their personal social media. And I thought, whoa, that person representing as a CEO of that company, that's also a reflection on me being on their cap table. I'm not okay with that. It's inappropriate and other things. So that's the case too. I think there's the social out there is now also a representation of a founder.
I mean, it's such a valuable insight for people to pay attention to the fact that your personal social, not even your personal social. Let's include your how you roll on LinkedIn. I think it's a barometer for who you are in many ways, right? And so Firebelly was on the verge of closing a deal with someone a few months ago, and we saw that person berating distributors and berating their partners and berating retailers. And I'm like, man, we cannot be associated with this person. We just can't. And so, the people that think it's cool, to get into arguments without decorum and etiquette on LinkedIn, it's a terrible move.
Totally agree. And investors look, they absolutely look. And I saw some people were almost like trying to fight me on it in the comments. And talked about it from a personal angle of like, you don't get to tell me what my thesis is and where my personal checks are going. One, two, that's my opinion. And if I lose out on a great founder, so be it. It is what it is. But I'm not going to be willing to take that risk. And I know so many other investors who won't either. And that's okay.
Now, does that extend into into the presentation room or the boardroom as well? When you're doing the
Totally.
pitch and you make the wrong comment or your energy is all wrong, does that work against you?
Well, I mean, to an extent, we're human. I've helped several founders. So this was a vegan jerky founder, and he had said, "Oh, I'm so disappointed. I totally blew it with this one investor. I can't go back to him." And I said, "Why not?" He's like, "Well, it was a few months ago, and I'm embarrassed, and da da da. I said the wrong things. We weren't at, I didn't have this or that." And I said, the worst thing he can say again is no. If you think he's a strategic investor for these reasons, and he was actually a heart surgeon, so we wanted it for the specific health purposes and, to have that kind of credibility on his cap table. And so we crafted a message for them to re-meet and talk through, this is where I'm at now, this is where it's going, and this is what it could look like together. And that investor came in for $100,000 when he originally was too afraid to go back. So you can absolutely go back to someone. I think, well, everything in life is negotiable, right? So the investors love the founders who come back with progress and prove that they're going to be coachable and put forth the effort. Like we just had an investor on, talk to some of our founders about how they index on responsiveness. Like if you tell me you're going to send me your deck, it shouldn't be in 5 days. Send that to me in 24 hours. You want to set up a call? Don't ask me to give you my calendar. Like you should make the initiative and the move, and that's going to be the sign of someone who, they want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the extension of that is you're seeing early indications of ongoing behavior, right? And so if you see those yellow flags, best to ignore them. And so you're saying that you've seen people come back from a human down day. But I think the bad judgment situations on LinkedIn, difficult to come back from those, right?
Those are different because that's very publicly out there. Or if it's in a way where it makes someone uncomfortable, it's like, that's their personal choice. And it's really hard to kind of take that back versus, oh, I fumbled talking about my numbers is different than maybe bashing someone or a group that doesn't deserve that, if that makes sense.
And what I mean, just the total tangent that I hadn't even planned on talking to you about is I've seen so many um, prominent founders. I'm not saying they're not big companies, but they're prominent in their own spaces. Kind of get into this big company bashing. And my question is why? What's the point of doing that? It's like your little uh, rant on LinkedIn ain't going to do anything. It's no one's even paying attention to you. So why do it? The only person losing is you. And yet people do it.
I agree that that's not the place for it. And you could see a potential partner. I would say I was talking to this sponsor who had sponsored some events and things that I have done. And they told me in confidence, I'm not willing to sponsor that group who's here because they're cussing out people on LinkedIn publicly, and we just can't get behind that. And they admitted that to me and even said their name of like, we're staying far away from that, even from a sponsor perspective, could be a partner perspective. I mean, so that stuff is a reflection.
And so in all of this relatability, which I love that term in general on social and in real life. Relatability wins so many challenges, right? What about the brand story? And in the case of a founder in the early stages, their story is in many cases is the brand story, right? How do you advise your clients to or do you advise your clients to align their brand story with the investor story so that there's a greater opportunity for connection there?
That's the first thing we focus on. We say investors buy into you before what you do. So it's a part of like you, the problem, challenge, how you resonate with it, what's actually going on, the proof behind it, and then you talk about what you do. So there's actually like 4 categories we want to come out of a founder's mouth before they even talk about this is what I do. Because for example, we have a lot of founders, or I'll give one of a founder was pitching an investor about their wine brand to someone who's been sober for 10 years. They have distribution context. They have all the support. They could be a great strategic investor, but that doesn't mean they're a target consumer. And they were pitching their story in a way where it was like you. And that's such a turnoff. So there's a way of the brand story of like, you understand our customer, you can go pitch it to our target customer, but you don't have to consume it in order to understand it. And that's one of the most advanced things we help a founder with. It sounds really simple, but it's nothing to do with pitching your target consumer. The goal is that they go pitch it for someone else on your behalf. So the brand story is a huge part of it, but it's also ties into your personal connection as it relates to the business and the problem at hand.
Okay, so the next one is interesting. What separates founders who are on this journey that break through versus the founders that stall?
Resilience. Being a founder is so freaking hard. And I don't miss the overseas manufacturing days and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I feel like I did my time. I did that company for 6 years and exited. And it wasn't even something like refrigerated. So bless the founders who have to deal with freezer, fridge, and frozen space for the alcohol space. Like this is like a level of CPG crazy. And then there's that. Like truly, I know it's so much harder. And so I think we have to be a little delusional, but it's not about the amount of work you put in because things could still fail. It's how many times are you willing to get punched in the face and still stand up? Like I truly, truly believe that that's it because there were so many moments from literally losing everything to a fire. I even had uh I got death threats from people when their orders didn't make it in time for Christmas and it was a USPS issue, not my issue. I had people were telling me they were going to report me to the BBB because I didn't have their orders get on time again because of USPS. I mean, I had a 10,000 unit batch completely botched, the manufacturer unwilling to fix it. So we hand sewed and fixed all of those products. And then I was under contract 3 times, 4 times before selling. The third time fell through the week of my wedding. Like it is truly about resilience. And I have so many other founder stories behind it, but there's so many ways so much easier to quit and not deal with it and have a nice paycheck and the benefits. But the founders, what separates is like literally that's why I say grit. Grit and resilience go hand in hand, and that is hands down the top reason I would say.
Thank you. Well, okay, so let's talk about the psychology of timing. When is a business too early or too late?
I find that 99% of founders are too late because they ask for money when they need it versus they don't build relationships when they don't need it. And so, no, even if someone is pre-product pre-revenue and you don't even plan to raise capital, the relationship building should start now. 3 messages a day with people. 3. If you think about 3 messages per day, even just during weekdays, that's like over 700 messages. Don't make me do the mental math in my head. I forgot what it is exactly, but like a year. And think about your hit rate on relationship building that can come from just 3 messages a day. Like how crazy that is. It compounds. And I see so many founders are like, oh, I'm going to do that when I have time for this. Or once that happens, then I'm going to finally do it. And that's the biggest lie you'll tell yourself because there's always a never ending to-do list as a founder. My brain still never shuts off. I was crazy enough to run a second company and like I'm Monday through Sunday, 24/7. I know CPG founders are too. So it's really, really hard. And I don't know, I can unpack that more, but like that is my take on that.
No, I think that, I mean, I think that that's actually universal, not just for founders, right? It's like, hey, if you're needing to grow your business or you need to, get a loan for whatever you're doing in your personal life, it's like, go build a relationship with the banker now. Like, if you can hang out with the banker, even better, right? It's like, let them see who you are, because I'm convinced that they have that buffer where they can move a deal.
They
And
absolutely make emotional decisions.
yeah,
Investors too. That's why they love a little bit of FOMO and all that, because the bankers, creditors, all that can be the difference between a little extra push or not.
yeah, totally. Um, All right. So let me ask you this. What are you super excited about at the moment?
I got invested in a business coach, and I'm a believer that all coaches need coaches because it's my responsibility to also level up with our founders. And I realized how small I was thinking. And so now I'm on a mission to help 10,000 founders become more fundable. It's not just on investors, that's on actually getting themselves ready to take on all those forms of capital and close it so they can go run and grow their business without having to worry and feel that kind of pain. And help them raise over 250 million. We're at over 55 million now, and it's going up weekly, which is great, but there's a lot more of the right capital to be had. And so I'm really excited about taking this bigger lens and being pushed. And I urge all founders is, at the time I couldn't really afford that, or I really shouldn't have in that sense, but I've never not had an ROI investing in myself. And I think more founders should think the same of that if they're willing to like have that grit and level of execution. It's there's someone who can get you that answer faster. You should do it every time. Every single time, and there's no reason for it to not pay for itself. And that's really just a reflection on you if you didn't like use the support or resources. And so every investment I've made in a coach and support, it's like tripled my output and has made my brain think in ways that I didn't even think were possible. And that's so important of like people, resources, mentors, advisors, programs, coaches, whatever it might be. It's like, if you want to go here, go pay for the answer to get there. And it's worth it every time. And I use credit cards to pay for it. Like I didn't have that money, but I sure as heck knew I was going to go figure it out. And that's just part of it too.
And sometimes it's not even what to think about, it's what not to think about, right? It's like, hey, you made your decision, move on, stop thinking about it, you got it. And I think that reassurance from a coach is invaluable. There have been times when I didn't gel with my coach the way I wanted to, and I came to the coach and said, "Hey, these are my struggles." And so let's unpack it. Like let's make sure I understand your goals and where you're trying to go so I can support you. So, and then you meet people that are high profile people that don't want to spend money on a coach. So, I mean, I think it's I guess each to their own. So what can we ask the audience to do to help support you with this big, hairy, audacious goal?
Well, I want to help them. So they send me on Instagram the word Firebelly, and I'm going to send my investor vetting checklist and help them with the raise amount. And if they want to find me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, I'm share daily tons of free fundraising advice and support because I want to make it more successful. And as my coach says, if you do your marketing right, you will help more people than your product or service ever will. And
So now,
sorry, go ahead.
no, so I got a couple more for you though. So now what does Kat do for fun?
I go to the gym every day. I am very into fitness and being active. I don't keep up with tennis as much anymore. I transition into a washed-up tennis player playing pickleball. So I try to do that when I can. And cooking is a release for me. Like I'm not one who can just sit and watch TV. My head goes crazy. So if I'm doing something with my hands or being active, that's when I get to relax per se. So cooking, fitness, and hanging with my very large dog.
And now what about music? When you're cooking, is music on, music off? You're focused? What are you doing?
It's a good question. I love having a little bit of slow, chill music to relax. That's definitely a part of it. I drive my husband crazy this time of year because Christmas music is always on.
I mean, and it's interesting because even innovative Christmas music is still the same Christmas music. There's no such thing as really like big changes in Christmas music. It's the same, right? So
Yeah, it's just a feeling this time of year. I don't know what it is. It's also a good distraction. I don't like it when I work. I like to super zone in, but when I'm not doing that, it helps me just relax in the moment too.
and what about your favorite things to cook?
It's funny. I'm a big every Sunday meal prep. That's like a big part of the week. It's non-negotiable in our house. I had to force my husband into it too, but we love making breakfast sandwiches. That's like our thing. Homemade English muffins, eggs, protein. I've had them every day for God knows how many years now. Like that's probably our favorite. It sounds really silly and simple, but my grandma always made fresh homemade bread growing up, and so I feel like she's with me when I make it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation about investor psychology. And please know that there's an open invitation for you to come back on the show, either by yourself or with a client that you want to bring. or maybe some other colleagues would love to have you. And any last advice to people on investor psychology and offering them some hope?
It's not about making the right decision. It's about making the decision right, in the sense that you can go back to someone, you're allowed to make mistakes, you're allowed to not have all the answers. And so you go make that decision right, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Now you have a focus too. I forgot to ask about the focus. You are very supportive of women and minority founders.
So it's not only who we support, but I get a lot of that more naturally because I am a woman in this space, and it's rare because only 1.9% of women raise capital, and it's even less for minorities. I think it's like 0.7%. And so there's a natural draw of like, oh, you get it, you know how hard it is, and I have the funds and resources and investors who support that. So I I would say we're about 70% female and underrepresented founders who we support and get those wins. And it's just because there's a lack of resources, support, and education to do it. And when you have the right people on your cap table, not the people who are going to diminish you, makes all the difference in the world. So it's a definite focus of what we do, not the only thing of what we do, but it's a natural draw just because we have a lot of resources. And as a woman running the company, I think it helps some of those people resonate.
Thank you. Sorry, I totally forgot about that. So I'm glad that we brought that back up. So thank you again, Kat, for making the world better. And to everyone who's listening, if you're a founder, remember Kat's offer. If you're looking to sharpen your pitch, build investor-ready confidence, or get funded faster, head over to powertopitch.com to learn more. And of course, if you're a mission-driven food or beverage brand looking to build community and grow through social, go to firebellymarketing.com. Thank you for tuning in to the Firebelly Social Show. Don't forget to subscribe and share and tell your friends about it. Until next time, we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much, Duncan.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.